Season 3 of Snowpiercer came to an end with Melanie and Layton permanently separated on the train. Today, we'll look at what Connelly had to say about how her character and Layton might overcome this new problem without becoming enemies again. Join us as we explore Snowpiercer's dramatic finale. So, what happened? Layton put up the proposal to travel to the Horn of Africa for a vote in Season 3, Episode 8. But in order to give the passengers something to hold on to, he lied about the circumstances they'd have to encounter to get there. He also claimed that New Eden could support life, despite the fact that the facts didn't specifically support that assumption. Melanie sent the train into a spiral of total chaos when she told everyone about Layton's lies, putting herself in yet another disagreement with him. Melanie was justified in giving the complete picture of what to expect on this risky journey, though. With the train's conditions deteriorating, resources limited, and everyone wanting to get off, it seems like the logical move to side with Layton and Melanie wishes for the same thing. But she's convinced that now is not the right time. It's clear now that Melanie is unlikely to change her mind in the finale, according to Connelly. What does Connelly think is going to happen? Connelly believes that Melanie will stand strong, and the only thing she wants is for Layton to come to the table. Melanie, she believes, is sick of all the fights she's been through since Season 5. She tried to communicate with Layton and talk to Alex, but she was eventually shut down. She's made her move, and all she wants now is for Layton to come to the table and consider a different course of action. Wilford escapes imprisonment in Episode 9 and continues to have support from a select few passengers on the train. Even if Wilford's fans disagree, Connelly believes Wilford is still a threat to Melanie, Layton, and the whole train. Melanie and Layton may be able to find some common ground and settle their conflict because of their common enemy, according to Connelly. Both Layton and Melanie genuinely respect and admire each other as leaders, people, and thinkers. Melanie truly wants them to be on the same page and come together to think of a solution that could benefit everybody. How will the train respond? The 1,029-car train is split between those who want to stay on board with Melanie Cavill and those who want to accompany Andre Layton to New Eden. Melanie reverted to her Snowpiercer Season 1 ego when she duped Layton immediately after she was miraculously resurrected. But luckily, Melanie and Andre chose not to repeat the mistakes of the past and instead let each passenger choose their own destiny without any unnecessary violence. But this is a television show and it must keep its viewers interested somehow. In the end, Layton had to face the tale and explain his New Eden lies after Melanie hijacked the engine and declared that the train would not travel to New Eden. But hold on, it's about to get a whole lot more dramatic. While Layton would never collaborate with Wilford, Melanie recognizes that she lacks the numbers and clout to defend the train from the tail army without Wilford's help. But she also knows Wilford well enough to understand that he simply cannot be trusted. Melanie and Layton, to their credit, have both come a long way since the first season of Snowpiercer, and they have mutual regard for one another. This plays a very important role because Snowpiercer's two leaders are able to put their egos aside and work together to find a solution that doesn't require Wilford's help. Because let's be real, he's going to throw them under the bus anyway. Why did Melanie stay with Snowpiercer instead of going to New Eden? Despite the fact that it was Melanie's data that led Layton to New Eden in the first place, she refused to go there since there wasn't enough evidence that New Eden could support life. Also, Melanie and Wilford were both aware that the rails leading to the Horn of Africa had deteriorated, posing a threat to Snowpiercer's visit to Eden. So naturally, a disagreement between the two leaders had to happen. However, for many of the passengers, life aboard the Snowpiercer is no longer bearable, and the possibility of escape, despite the risks, is enough to have them side with Layton. Melanie and Layton realize that. Even if they were sure that their ideas were valid, they no longer have the authority to impose them on the rest of the passengers. Melanie believes that staying on board her train and looking for a better way to New Eden is the right choice. Because, let's be real, Snowpiercer is and always has been Melanie's New Eden. Can Wilford return in Season 4? Melanie and Layton know that if Mr. Wilford stayed on board, their plan to have a democratic system on Snowpiercer would never work. Wilford would eventually sabotage Cavill and Layton's plans, and Melanie sees right through Wilford's phony promises that he wouldn't interfere with her authority when they made their pact. Secondly, Wilford's request to retain his creature comforts would put a strain on Snowpiercer's limited resources. So in order to secure Snowpiercer's future and the success of Layton and Melanie's strategy to split Snowpiercer, Wilford has to be out of the picture. After all, would there be a show if the train couldn't survive? Anything is possible, but Wilford's future is unknown at the moment, especially because Melanie has just been reintroduced after being absent for most of Snowpiercer seasons 2 and 3. The show may try the same tactic with Wilford. After all, Wilford is just as resourceful and crafty as Melanie, and if Melanie can survive, then so should he. Who sided with Layton? Melanie and Layton agreed to split Snowpiercer based on a democratic vote, which would allow both parties equal access to food, supplies, and a chance to survive. Melanie would take the Eternal Engine and the front part of the train, while Layton and his crew would get Big Alice. Those that will accompany Layton to New Eden, meanwhile, have a strong urge to depart and begin a new life. We'd be fed up too if we were stuck on a train ride for all our life, wouldn't we? Lucky for the passengers who sided with Layton because his gamble paid off. The Horn of Africa has become somewhat sustainable. The outdoor temperature in the harsh environment is -5 degrees Fahrenheit, which is terribly cold but still manageable. But it's getting warmer. While there is no official count of who traveled to New Eden with Layton, it's clear that the Tail and many other characters from the other classes followed him. Melanie's partners, Bennett Knox, Miss Audrey, Bess Till, Miles, Dr. Pelton, and Tristan, who's now head of hospitality, were among the upper classes that stayed aboard Snowpiercer with Melanie. But why did Bess abandon Layton after everything they'd been through, you ask? Well, Bess couldn't move to New Eden and leave her newfound love, Miss Audrey, behind at such a heartbreaking moment, could she? Let's also consider the fact that this will finally wrap up Miss Audrey's redemption after turning on the train and becoming Wilford's puppet. Yes, this means we no longer have any villains on Snowpiercer, especially considering that even LJ is no longer with us. Up next, no more villains. LJ died in the final episode of Snowpiercer Season 3 after unintentionally choking on her favorite prosthetic eyeball. After Wilford was exiled, LJ preferred to stay on Snowpiercer in order to take control from Melanie, and she divorced her husband John, who chose New Eden over her. Since it was her who poked her father's eye out in the first place, LJ choking on his eyeball is poetic justice at its finest. With the death of LJ, Snowpiercer has officially lost all of its antagonists from the first 3 seasons. Wilford has been banished, Kevin has died at LJ's hand, and Pike has been executed by Layton. Snowpiercer has been liberated from the clutches of criminals and troublemakers. LJ's death is especially ironic because it was her murder rampage that drove Melanie to elevate Layton from the Tail and appoint him as trained detective, setting in motion the events of Snowpiercer seasons 1 through 3. Credit where credit is due. Thanks, LJ. What could happen in Season 4? The Season 3 finale of Snowpiercer concludes with a time jump to 3 months later, as Melanie experiences a missile launch from the cockpit of the engine. The missile was launched from an undisclosed horizon point. Is it possible that it started with Big Alice in New Eden? Snowpiercer would have been far away from the Horn of Africa, not oriented towards it, so it's possible but doubtful, unless Melanie is piloting her train there. A more plausible theory is that the missile was launched from a previously unknown site with more survivors. With the introduction of Asha at the start of Snowpiercer Season 3, it opens the door to more survivors who could have launched the missile. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. There's also the possibility that Wilford has found other survivors like Asha and is responsible for the missile. Could the missile be an attempt to warm the Earth's surface by releasing heat into the atmosphere? The narrative of Snowpiercer has never been constant, and it continues to move ahead, so really anything could happen. But the show has reinvented itself, and Season 4 might take Melanie, Layton, and the passengers on the 1,029-car-long Snowpiercer on a whole different path. But who knows what the future holds? Hit the bell icon so you don't miss out when we make a new upload as new information about the next season becomes available. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.